As Princess Tutu is heavily fairy tale inspired, it has to begin with Once Upon a Time. Once upon a time, there was a writer named Drosselmeyer, blessed with the ability to make his stories come to life. His latest story was to be titled The Prince and the Raven. However, he died while writing it, leaving the story unfinished and its characters locked in an eternal battle. The villainous raven of the story was able to escape, yet he was pursued by the valiant prince, and in order to seal the raven away, the prince shattered his heart into several pieces, causing him to lose his memories and emotions.
Drosselmeyer, however, is not quite as dead as people would like to believe, and he laments at this now suspended tale. He chances upon a little duckling who's fallen in love with the prince, and he gives her a magical pendant that will transform her, first into a human girl, and then into the prima ballerina Princess Tutu, who is a very minor character in Drosselmeyer's story. The Dot, who is named Dot, is charged with finding and returning the sacred shards of Prince Mito's heart in order to restore him. As Dot, the normal human girl, she attends a ballet school set in a fairy tale-like town where humans and talking animals are coexisting. That pendant will glow when a heart shard is nearby and allow her to transform into Princess Tutu. She has a number of obstacles in her way. If she does anything duck-like, she will revert to a duckling and can only turn back into a girl by submerging herself in the water. Additionally, Tutu has a dark counterpart, who is the Raven's daughter known as Princess Craigie, who is a human girl named Rue, who is also in love with the prince.
We also have the dark and mysterious Fakir, who found and cared for Muto after he escaped the story and shattered his heart. And of course, Fakir doesn't want Mito to regain his heart, because if the prince is restored, then that means the raven will return and the prince will be forced to fight again. And lastly, if Princess Tutu ever confesses her love to the prince, she will vanish as a speck of light. A little bit of a Little Mermaid for the final twist in there. All the classic ingredients for a tragedy. Princess Tutu is charged with restoring the prince's heart. People don't want the prince's heart to be restored, and everybody is locked in this eternal conflict. How will it shake out?
Ooh, can't wait to find out.
So the original work for Princess Tutu, the original creator, is a woman named Ikuko Ito. And on the anime adaptation, she's also the character designer and chief animation director. And she had been working on the concept since the early 90s. The earliest form of Princess Tutu was generally a story set to classical music where Princess Tutu helps her prince recover his heart. That's the very basic one. By 1994, we see Swan Lake enter the picture. We're now a ballet with classical music. As far as the beginning of the story, this is set in Japan. The main character is a little girl whose parents run a dance studio, and when the clock in the studio strikes midnight, a mysterious door opens all Narnia style, and the girl is swept into ballerina land. Or there's also, as part of the DVD extras here, or the Blu-ray extras, we have some early sketches featuring a black swan and a white swan butting heads. You have Odile the Black Swan, which I think is like a stand-in for Odette of Swan Lake. By 1997, you've got the more familiar story of this anime of a duck living in a pond who falls in love with a boy who dances by the water every full moon. One full moon night, the boy doesn't float down, and the duck makes a wish upon the moon of, I wish I could see the boy again. And a mysterious old man floats down the river and promises to grant her wish. So this man is Drosselmeyer. And then by 1998, you have Junichi Sato of Sailor Moon fame and others joining the project, and the story now more resembles the anime even more, with more Drosselmeyer twists. Now you have the knight and the raven. Even early on, like Craigie had a pretty distinct style. Like,
have you ever seen Swan Lake, Dave?
I have. I've seen the ballerina on the ballet. I've seen the ballet on TV once, and there's actually if we're going to anime land real quick, there is, I think it's 1974. It's a 1970s movie. They're adapting classical deals, and the whole movie is set to Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake. It's basically a moving concert, but there's still vocal lines and everything, but they literally move through all the acts of Swan Lake. It's an interesting watch. I think you can find it on Tubi or Prime.
I've never even heard of that. I'll have to look at that up. Yeah, I did see a performance of Swan Lake one time when I was a very small child. I think my elementary school took us to our city's ballet, and we watched that and the Nutcracker, and that's my only real experience with ballet. It's interesting to know how that was just such a what's the word I'm looking for? It was so ingrained from like stage like 2 or 3.
And specifically, Tutu is referencing back to like the classical ballet in the big three of the 19th century. That being, we already mentioned Swan Lake. We also have the Nutcracker. This is very Nutcracker coded as
Yes,
well. And then Sleeping Beauty. There's a,
Sleeping
I guess,
Beauty.
yeah, I guess of the three, I don't see as much of Sleeping Beauty as Swan Lake and the Nutcracker. But I mean, obviously, Princess Tutu, she herself, you have the ugly, well, not she's not ugly duckling, but you have the duckling who wants to become a swan. Literally happens
Yeah.
in the opening credits. And Tutu's outfit is also very swan-like. So it's, and then Drosselmeyer's from the Nutcracker, obviously. Something else that I also saw was with all of the animal characters in the classic fairy tale motif, all the animals are named, like you have a teacher, the ballet teacher is named Mr. Cat.
Yes, and like, a lot of that is like a lot of the incidental characters have funny names. Like in episode 2, I think there's an anteater girl who's like has a crush on Nito, and her name is Anteaterita.
Yeah, literally, like it's literally an anteater, and she's dancing, and so when she starts twirling, she's kicking up dust and dirt, and like digging through the ground. You have what is it, the Meerkat brothers as well, and they're literal meerkats, like meerkat-sized meerkats.
Yeah, that crack. A lot of the animal characters kind of cracked me up as they showed up.
Yeah, it's just a surreal nature of it, and so one of the ballets and themes that pervades Princess Tutu as well is something called the Carnival of the Animals. Snippets of, I think there's one episode literally called like Romeo and Juliet. So comes pulls from that ballet. You've got the ballet of Cinderella, 1001 Arabian Nights. There's a bunch of ballet.
Oh yes, absolutely. Like I'm not really familiar with it, so there were probably dozens of references that went over my head. But yes, if you have an affinity for the history of dance or anything, then this is a show that you will probably enjoy.
So to kind of get into the staff a little bit more here, so we've done some set dressing. Obviously, the chief director over all of this is Junichi Sato, who is the series director for Sailor Moon prior to Kunihiko Ikuhara taking the helm. And obviously, Sailor Moon has a heck of a stellar reputation.
Sailor Moon is, the big girl of the magical girl genre. Like I did, there was definitely like a lot of Sailor Moon DNA in this show. I feel like you could and take at least some of these early episodes and just like replace, Duck slash TT with Usagi slash Sailor Moon, and very few things will change. But that's not really a bad thing at all.
Maybe, but then it wouldn't be Princess Tutu.
Well, no, and that's what we're here for, isn't it?
So to circle back to Junichi Sato for a minute, he's had a very colorful career even before Sailor Moon and especially after Sailor Moon. So he started his career at Toei. He took and passed the trainee recruitment exam while still an animation and film student at the Nihon University College of Art. Sato-san dropped out of college in 1981 to work at Toei full-time, and he quickly rose to the ranks. He even passed their director's selection test in 1983. So he would have been about 23 years old at the time, and I think one of the youngest, if not the youngest staff to do so at the time.
Wow, that's something.
Yeah, it's really impressive. Like he got his directorial debut was a little children's series. This was Mapletown Stories in 1986, and what's going to be a theme of his time at Toei is, as he says, he had a minor disagreement with a producer about the direction of the Mapletown Stories sequels. And so for that disagreement, he was demoted to episode director and storyboards. But then he came back in 1999 for Magical Do-Re-Mi and obviously Sailor Moon in 1992. And he continued with like episode directions and storyboards on Sailor Moon.
Okay, he was also in early contention for directing the 1989 movie Kiki's Delivery Service at Studio Ghibli, but Toei and Ghibli couldn't come to an agreement because the idea was he would be seconded or temporarily assigned to Ghibli during the film production, but Toei didn't really want to send away an in-house employee to something that was a direct competitor of them. But interestingly, he also has multiple pen names, one being FallenSnowKiku, and he has storyboard credits on a number of mecha series, including Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam, 0080, War in the Pocket, Neon Genesis Evangelion, specifically episodes 4, 5, 15, and 21. And what's interesting is he also got Hideaki Anno to do some key animation for Sailor Moon, and the thing is, Anno is a big fan of Sailor Moon.
So despite not being able to direct Kiki's Delivery Service, which, let's be honest, the same thing happened to Sanao Katabuchi soon after, everyone at the time was pretty sure that Miyazaki was going to direct that film anyways. So in 1995, Junichi Sato directed the film Junkers Come Here. This is at Triangle Staffs. It's a story about a girl and her dog. And because of his time at Triangle Staff in 1995, that gave them a chance to create his first original work. So this was Magic Users Club, a 6-episode OVA series. However, there was more friction at Toei, and basically that same producer stepped in and said, we didn't like having a Toei employee over here working on this other thing outside of Toei. So Junichi Sato is not officially credited as director, nor was he paid for that work outside of Toei. Then that's just a rough deal. So he has I think he has a credit of called general director or a character designer. I would have had it written down, but I just forgot to do that. But he has credits on the film that he's not credited as the film's director. Eventually, Junichi Sato left Toei in 1998, and he was also in the middle of all the contract negotiation stuff. He was a liaison for folks. So he was trying to get out of Toei years prior and just through the time, but had a lot of people depending on him, so he kind of stuck around for it. So he officially left in 1998 and immediately approached Triangle staff with a pitch for Magic Users Club, the television series, and for this time, he has gotten the proper directorial credits.
He also joined HAL Filmmaker in 2000, and he was the representative director, one of the representative directors for him. He stayed on doing the merger with TYO Animations and left in 2016. He did the original work and direction for Pre-Tier, which is New Legend of Snow White Pre-Tier, and he also adapted for Sunrise the Sergeant Frog manga into something more family friendly, and he directed that from all the way from 2004 to 2011 for 358 episodes. He also directed R&D Animation since 2005, which they're still making that show. The most recent one came out in 2022. He also did Kaleido Star in 2003 with multiple OVA sequels, and I've heard of Kaleido Star before. I assume it's another magical girl show. In 2017, he joined the Twin Engine Company after leaving TYO, and he directed the 2018 series Hug Pre-Cure, which is actually the only Pre-Cure show I've had any experience with. It's a pretty fun series. And he also did a Manchu for JC staff, and did the 2020 Netflix movie A Whisk Your Away. Most recently, he did the Magical Girl Show 2022's Lhasa Pre-Magi, which is 51 episodes. They began in fall 2021 with the theme of magical entertainers, and he also did the 2023 Akamakin web series for Netflix, and which is one of, many anime revival series that have been popular for the last couple of years. And he also directed some of the TV series and the movies in 1989 and 1990.
I've not seen anything of Akama-kun, but it's interesting that they're going okay, we want specifically Junichi Sato back for that.
Yeah, he must have done some pretty good work if they wanted to bring a guy back from, over 30 years ago.
And so real quick, we're going to jump back into the studio that animated Princess Tutu. We're going to do the studio brief. This is animated by HAL Filmmaker. This is a studio founded by Katsunori Haruta and other former Toei animation staff, and it was active from 1993 to the middle of 2009. Some of its best-known works were written and directed by Junichi Sato. Again, he was a key staff member, key representative director. But outside of his directorship, we have Macross 7, Saber Marionette J, Bigata HK, or Yamada's First Time. With Junichi Sato, we mentioned pretty much everything already. Of course, we have Pre-Tier, Princess Tutu. There was a movie, Slayers Premium, and then we have Kaleido Star, Aria the Animation, and then this is where the series started with HAL Filmmaker, and then JC Staff's pretty much picked up that series. And the way that this goes, mergers and acquisitions just makes me all tingly, HAL Animation merged with Umeda Company in 2009. So this was under the ownership of TYO Company Limited. And so this is when we have the change over to TYO animation. So it was just the few staffers at HAL were just transferred over to TYO. And then in December of 2017, TYO Animations was acquired by another big media company. This is called Memory Tech Holdings Incorporated. And so this was moved under a subsidiary, but then changed its name back to Yameta Company, and that studio is still active today. Like we said, Junichi Sato left in 2016, and he joined the Twin Engine group of studios. So as far as some things under Yameta Company, these are all 2018 and beyond. So we have Cannon Busters. You can see that one on Netflix. I believe this next one's on High Dive. Tokyo Mew Mew New.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah, again, they just brought back Tokyo Mew Mew. Also, they brought in Muv Love Alternative.
I have heard of that one.
Yeah, the whole I know Muv Love as a general franchise. I know it's a big deal, but I can't remember if Muv Love Alternative is a good entry or not. I'm not familiar with it. I think its best years were behind it at this point.
Yeah, I think I have the visual novels on my Steam wishlist, but I'm not really familiar with the show at all.
And then finally, they are attached to the upcoming Disney Twisted Wonderland the animation, which I believe is adapting.
It's a mobile game.
Yeah, it's a mobile game adaptation. So like Disney villains and heroes, but they're all twisty. Ooh. So we'll see how it is.
I actually had a coworker who used to play the mobile game. It's pretty much like Disney villains, but their anime has us, so they know what their audience is for sure.
And then last but not least, Junichi Sato on Princess Tutu is the chief director, so he was basically overseeing the whole thing. But it was also we also have a series director attached. It's a series director, Shogo Kawamoto. And they've had their start as like episode director on a couple of things. So they were on Mobile Fighter G Gundam, Visions of Escaflowne, and then Matchless Raijin O. And just prior to directing Tutu, Shogo Kawamoto is known for You're Under Arrest, Season 2. That was in 2001. And then it had a TV special, No Mercy, in March of 2002. And then generally around there is when he started working on Tutu. So after Tutu, there's another Magical Girl series that Kawamoto-san directed. This is Twin Princess of Wonder Planet. Junichi Sato is also the chief director. Shogo Kawamoto has primarily been a storyboarder since then, so he was attached to Kaleido Star and Sergeant Frog. And then outside of Junichi Sato, he's also done the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise from 5D's, Zexal, and I don't know what Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's is. I think it's the latest one.
Yeah, I think that's either the newest one or the next newest one.
And so as far as when this anime came out, Princess Tutu was broadcast from August 2002 to May 2003. The episode numbers it varies depending on what you look at, but the original broadcast was split into 2 clear seasons, and originally it was 38 episodes, but it's really 26 because the back half of the season had a different time slot. They recombined them into 26. And so you have part 1, Chapter of the Egg, and then part 2 after episodes 14 and onward, the Chapter of the Chick, or also known as the Chapter of the Fledgling. I think you and I were talking about this before we hit the recording button. We decided on not doing a spoiler segment because the back half of the show you can't really talk about it because it's paying off all those first 13, and also characters change very drastically.
Without really going into spoiler territory, I would say that it's a show that does not remain static and is not content to remain static, if that makes any sense.
Oh, you summed that up perfectly. Absolutely perfectly. Wow.
Thank you.
We're already kind of in it, but what were your first impressions of Princess Tutu going in, and what did you think you were kind of in for as the show got along?
Well, it's like that meme I mentioned earlier. I was kind of expecting something along the lines of Cardcaptor Sakura with just like fairy tale motifs. Like the first 2 or 3 episodes, they kind of settle into this groove. Like Chi finds a heart shard and she turns into, or her duck finds a heart shard rather, and she turns into Tutu and has to solve somebody's problem in order to get that heart shard back and into Muto. And it's kind of interesting because the first couple episodes, they're kind of like twisted fairy tales, so to speak. Like there's one episode that has this woman who's like Duck and Muto are like just out and about, and they go to this restaurant, and this woman just keeps feeding them food, and you're starting to think, oh, this is gonna be like a Hansel and Gretel type story. She's gonna eat them, but no, she's a widow, and she's grieving her husband, and the way she remembers him is by cooking. It reminds her just of how much she loves like making other people happy with her food. It's a show that's all about kind of subverting expectations of these fairy tales and stuff.
I think the moment that started to do it for me was the emotions that she was returning to the prince. This is the heart shard for fear. Oh boy, and then this is the one for loneliness. It's like a lot of really negative emotions are being returned to the prince early on. The more that he recovers himself in all these negative emotions, the prince is obviously suffering.
I can't help but notice that too.
That gives more credence to the other kid, Fakir, who is supposed to be like Muto's, or he's assigned himself as Muto's guardian. And he seems like really much of like a jerk at the beginning. And he's extremely mean to Duck.
There's definitely like a school bully thing going on with him.
Although in another way, it's you have as I guess as far as our characters, we mentioned there's Duck, she is a duck who can transform into a girl, who can transform into a magical girl, as we've covered. You have Muto the prince, and then Fakir. As far as Drosselmeyer's story, because again, this entire world that we are in storybook land. And so in Drosselmeyer's story, Fakir is the knight who assists the prince. And then we have the raven, obviously, but the raven is sealed away. So in his stead, he has Rue, who is like the prima ballerina at this ballerina school. And she also transforms into Princess Krehe. And so you have Fakir the knight, who is trying to safeguard Muto so he doesn't have to fight the raven. But it's also openly antagonistic to Princess Tutu. Like, he draws a sword on Princess Tutu.
He's basically the closest thing the show has to like an overarching villain for the first chunk of it, because the raven's nowhere to be seen. And Princess Krehe herself, I don't think, comes in until like episode 7 or 8 or so.
We get a couple of first episodes where Tutu is able to is dealing with other people who have been corrupted or taken over by the heart shards of the prince. And then Krehe enters the picture. Now we have an openly antagonistic character who is selfishly guarding the prince, because Krehe wants the prince to remain the same, because while the prince is basically brainless and emotionless, he is Rue's boyfriend, which for something like a Magical Girls series tend to be pretty generally uplifting kind of shows. And so even now, like this early on, like we're already into some pretty dark territory, surprisingly dark twists.
Oh yeah.
On the formula, even with just those characters. But even as to twist it in, as Duck becomes more involved with the prince, now she starts to develop feelings for him. But again, she can't confess anything or else she'll vanish into light.
Yeah, it reminds me of like this big fairy tale that like never actually existed. It's like it looks all like sugar and saccharine on the phone, but then you just dig a little deeper and you're like, oh, well, this is kind of messed up, isn't it?
Again, with every heart piece recovered, Muto gets that much closer to becoming a more complete person, and then subsequently the actions of Princess Krehe become more extreme. Fakir starts to take upon the role of the knight. Again, we said he was originally antagonist to Princess Tutu, but you get to see more of him okay, he's actually not that bad of a kid. He's just stuck in a way of, like, I have to guard Muto. I have to protect him at all costs.
Yeah, about like halfway through the show, like we kind of start to see flashbacks and like stuff from Fakir's perspective, but so a moment that always stuck out to me, like even now, and the show was finished a week and a half, but this is like, so that is one of my very favorite moments in the show. Doc is like, through some happenstances in her duck form, and she can't go back to being a human immediately or anything. Just looking for an opportunity to like jump in the pond and be back into a human girl, and Fakir runs into her. While she's a duck. And we see this moment of Fakir. He just kind of like picks her up and gives her a little pet and just talks to her for a minute. oh, this Fakir guy isn't really just, the hard ass we were led to believe. He's got his own struggles with Muzo that we start to see it from his side of the story.
Yeah, I think with Fakir, I think his heart's in the right place, or he's trying to make his heart in the right place, but somewhere he's kind of lost the steps, or he's spinning his wheels. He's not sure how best to protect his best friend.
Yeah, and we start to learn that Fakir has people he deeply cares about Muzo, and he just has his own way of showing it.
And I think something else before I forget is, like we said at the beginning of the episode, there's this man named Drosselmeyer. We are in Drosselmeyer's story ostensibly. He's supposed to be dead, yet there we see very early on like this old man in a clockwork kind of dimension watching all of this go down. And at any point that a character looks like, oh, maybe Tutu doesn't want to return the heart shard at one point, or maybe there's a character begins to have doubts. Drosselmeyer will start to panic and he'll step in because this is a story. These are ostensibly his characters, or he has assigned each of these characters a role. And at any point they start to act out against that role, Drosselmeyer begins to grow concerned because it's not going according to his designs.
Like it'll zoom out. It'll be from the perspective of him, like watching it on a screen in like his little gear world. Because that's what's important to him. Is just getting the story just back right. He's kind of to use a metaphor. It's kind of like a railroading DM. If you're playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons, he wants to tell the story his way and doesn't want anybody else to interfere with it.
And he makes for a really interesting antagonist, air quotes or question mark. You're not really sure because at the very beginning, there's something obviously very odd about him and very off-putting. He's got this big Cheshire cat-like eyes and grin. He's got this ridiculous headdress. He always has this creepy smile about him. And so even as he's handing out favors and handing out advice to Duck, it's like, this is what you need. He's giving her just enough to go on and lets Duck's naivete do the rest. And it's all to stir up conflict in the larger narrative. And whenever that happens, you can just see him delightfully clapping his hands. But then there are times where he will step in and he will help Princess Krahe. He's like, oh, Tutu got one over you, huh? Here's an idea.
Yeah, he's always kind of just whispering his ideas into the ears on both sides. I know this is a hell of a reach that I'm about to say, but it just occurred to me. Like I remember the writer Thomas Harris, and I've been reading some of Hannibal Lecter books recently, and what he says is like he let the characters kind of flow through him, and Drosselmeyer here is kind of doing the opposite. Like every time they get off track a little bit, he's just kind of poking them with the stick and wanting them to come on, cause some tragedies. Like this ain't a happy story.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's not like he has unlimited power within the space. We do get an idea that he is constrained somewhat, so he has to be very subtle about it. And so he has another means to an end of almost, if you want to say, like, there's a little bit of Pinocchio in this story. We have a mysterious woman named Ada, who will gently talk to Duck and give her advice, almost like the neighbor Wilson from Home Improvement. She'll just show up whenever Duck is having a conundrum and give her the exact advice Duck needs to connect all the threads in the most gentle way possible. But she's an interesting character as well.
In my notes, for whatever reason, I don't actually have her name written down until like episode 8 or 9, because I just didn't hear him said until then. But yeah, she's kind of, for lack of a better word, she's kind of Drosselmeyer's agent in the story without really, to go back to that DM analogy I had, she's like an important NPC that he controls through her.
As far as the writers on this show, some of the people who helped put this together. So again, we had Sato-san, and then on series composition, we have Michiko Yokote.
Is this this was the head writer of Cowboy Bebop, right? Or am I thinking of somebody else?
Well, Yokote-san worked on Bebop, but she was an episode writer. Yeah, as far as her career, she started around 1990, so I have a couple of screenplay credits on. She did some episode credits for Ranma Half, also You're Under Arrest, Season 1. And so Cowboy Bebop, like you said, she wrote the script for Stray Dog Strut, Episode 2, She wrote Ballad of Fallen Angels. That's episode 5, one of the most famous episodes of Cowboy Bebop.
Oh,
You
yes.
have episode 7 and 8, which is Heavy Metal Queen, and then Waltz for Venus. Another famous episode of Bebop, episode 11, Toys in the Attic. I mean, come on. 16 and 17, Black Dog Serenade and Mushroom Samba. Episode 24, near the end, we have Hard Luck Woman.
Yeah, that's like, what, a third of the show? Cowboy Bebop has 0 bad episodes, but like those are exceptionally good episodes.
In the 2000s, Yokotei-san started to get some serious composition credits, the head writer credits. Airmaster, which is a gymnastics/fighting series.
Okay, yeah, my interest.
Genshiken, the one about the otaku.
I feel like I've heard of that one.
I wouldn't be surprised if you have heard of Genshiken. Yeah, that's one of those from the 2000s of this was the otaku show. That and Welcome to the NHK. She did 2 Clamp series, so she was the head writer on Holic, which I personally really like Holic, and I think she was also involved in the sequel seasons. I wish we would get those. Have you seen Holic before?
Um, I, I, I don't think so. I don't think I've seen the anime. I distinctly remember, like, my father one time bringing home the manga, and I kind of skimmed through it because he was a librarian, and so I was kind of the guinea pig for the manga and anime and stuff that they would sign. But I don't remember much about Holic except that it was about a fortune teller.
It's also one of those like Clamp things where Holic was a companion series of sorts to Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles. The characters would share or they would communicate back and forth. So that was kind of like her real job, was doing the whole multiverse angle of Clamp is her air quotes real job. But as soon as I saw this and was looking at Holic, I was like, okay, yeah, obviously I could see the Tutu DNA immediately in the way that it also twists stories and fairy tales and things.
I'll have to check that out at some point, certainly.
2010s and beyond, she was head writer on Squid Girl.
Love that show.
Great. She was head writer on Shirobako. Prison School. I had to throw that out.
Now that is a curveball.
That show is nothing but culture. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Masamune's Revenge, so another rom-com. Good Night World, which I believe is on Netflix. That's a 22, 23 show, like trapped in it, or like a video game show. Another just mind bender of a show from last year, I believe. Train to the End of the World.
I had heard of that one, but I haven't seen it.
Again, just more stuff to throw on the pile. Train to the End of the World is the ultimate, and now this happens kind of a show.
Okay, well, that'll definitely be something to watch. Hey, speaking of other writing staff, do you have any other curveballs to throw me?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking like Tutu and the whole twisty nature, you can get no one better than Chiaki Konaka, head writer on Serial Experiments Lane and Technolize.
You know, very, very lighthearted, fun, you know, bring the kids, bring the family works. I mean, like, when I saw his name on the writing credits list, I was, like, surprised, but also, like, yeah, not really.
You also have Rika Nakase, so the tragic romance aspect. She was the head writer on Fruits Basket, the 2001 Fruits Basket.
Makes sense.
And then the aforementioned Twin Princess of Wonder Planet. And then Mamiko Ikeda, so who was series composition on the first 103 episodes of Sergeant Frog. She also did a interesting josei work, Emma, A Victorian Romance, which I really want to watch that one when I can.
I might be thinking of about 6 other different shows, but yeah, I'm pretty sure I've heard of Emma.
And then Ikeda-san was also head writer on The President is a Maid, or Kaicho wa Maid-sama.
No, I
Which is a
have
very
heard of,
cute rom-com.
yeah, I have heard of that one. That's, I don't think I saw the whole thing, but I saw a couple episodes. It's a pretty relaxing watch, I think.
So with this head of writing staff, obviously, as we've said, nothing's going to be straightforward in this show at all.
I was a little surprised at how much Lane DNA there is in Tutu, but there's not as much as you'd think. I definitely felt better after watching Tutu than I did after watching Lane, or especially Technolize.
So what I really enjoy about this series is, again, no one is as they seem on the surface. You know, Fakir and Rue are both selfishly pursuing their own ends. But as you go through the show, it's like, no, these characters are sacrificing a lot.
They're all showing their love for Yuto in their own way. And that's a lot of it is due how much they're sacrificing, either to get him back to the way he was or to keep him as this emotionless, I won't hurt anybody and they won't hurt me kind of husk.
But then the extra twist is, even as Tutu herself is returning all of these negative emotions to the prince, and that as he is suffering, he's still saying, I want to be restored. I want, please make me whole again. And I think what I'm trying to get at is what you will see, one of the chief reasons that I think Princess Tutu is such a well-written story is you have the entire aspect of these are all storybook characters who are basically trapped in their roles, and through whatever reason they want to escape from those roles. And it's not exactly according to how Drosselmeyer would want it either. And so
Yeah.
like Fakir is the knight. He's there to protect the prince, but he's also there as far as the knight's role in the story. The knight just gets murked before he can even land a single blow on the raven. So Fakir's job, as per the story, is to die.
Yeah, and like how Tiki's role is to get the heart shards, but she knows she's not going to be the one who wins at the end. Like if she ever confesses how she feels about Muto, then poof, she's gone.
Yeah, again, as per the story, Princess Tutu cannot be with the prince. And then, of course, again, Fakir's earlier kindness to Duck as a little duck. So then she starts thinking, well, maybe he's not such a jerk after all. Oh no, am I falling for Fakir? It's just always, at any time you think the show is settling into something, it goes, oh, here's another rug to pull. And I
Yep.
just really respect it for that.
Oh yeah, but some of my favorite stories, especially anime, are they kind of just like just pull out the rug from under you occasionally, like like where the status quo isn't the status quo for very long. It's one of those. I think this one is definitely one that handles it really well.
There is obviously conflict, but I wouldn't call this a battle show.
I don't know. It didn't occur to me until like maybe halfway through the show, like, oh, Tutu just always solves her problems by like dancing and talking it out with whoever she's in conflict with. It seems like all of the conflicts in the show are like just Tutu walking whoever is being affected by the heart shard through their problems while dancing with them.
She transforms and she goes, come, dance with me. And again, this show is so deeply steeped in ballet. And you can take any kind of episode and take any kind of segment from whenever Tutu transforms and goes, okay, this is this song from this ballet or this classical piece. She is dancing this specific dance for this specific person. Again, conflict in this show is done through dance. Even when Fakir is wielding a sword, he's a bit different because he's sword fighting. Whereas when the Prince Siegfried, we see him fighting, or the Siegfried from the story, all of his sword techniques are also ballet moves. What I enjoy about Princess Tutu is because it's not a combat scene. When she's transformed, the show turns into a play. Everyone has a spotlight. All the moves and the gestures are played out how you would see a stage ballet performed. And I think that's just really cool.
Oh yeah, it's outstanding. That didn't even occur to me until you said it. Like it is even framed like you would see a stage ballet or something. I mean, it's like choreographed, but it feels like completely natural and in tone with the show. It's not like you're watching a musical or something and everybody just bursts out into song for no reason. It feels like a natural extension of the show.
And to go with that, again, because her powers are so steeped in dance, Tutu doesn't have any, like, she's not an attacker. She's purely on defense. She is about purification. She's about protection. She's about reconciliation. Whereas Princess Krahi, the Raven daughter, is all about attack
Oh yeah.
and corruption. She has nothing gentle or healing about her. On the surface, she's just the ugly Raven's daughter.
Yeah, and that's even like it's like kind of going back to the dancing very briefly. Like she does all of her stuff through dancing too, but hers is like a lot more aggressive.
Well, I think when Rue transforms into Princess Krahi, those feelings of love also get warped, and it becomes, I want to dominate, I want to control.
Yeah,
He is mine.
yeah,
Everyone's treating Muto as an object, whereas Princess Tutu is the person who's really trying to get to the heart of the person of the prince. He's not an object to her.
yeah.
And it's something that I think Fakir and Rue slash Krahi take a bit longer to notice
Oh
and
yeah,
to appreciate. And that's where you have, now that everyone's starting to treat Muto like a person now they have new dimensions opening up in their relationships, and that's when you have, okay, is this really my role? Am I really doing the best by Muto by being in this role? Is there something else I can do? I'd also like to, if we're talking on the ballet, because again, the classical ballet and classical music is so entwined, you got to get a really good classical composer.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes, the music in the show was composed by a well-known Japanese composer, Kaoru Wada. His credits include the Ninja Scroll 1993 movie, Inuyasha in his movies from from the year 2000 onward. He also returned for Yashahime in 2020. He recorded ghost stories of all things, Cashew Sins in 2008, and the 2024 Mappa version of Rana One Half. He's also done orchestral arrangements for the Kingdom Hearts franchise. It was also announced recently that Princess Tutu and the Legend of Galactic Heroes orchestral concert has been announced for fall 2025 and will recreate scenes from both series. It will be held at the Tokyo Opera City Concert Hall on August 15th and the Kobaku University Hall of the Hyogo Prefectural Arts and Cultural Center September 19th. So if you find yourself in Japan, then it might be fun to attend.
Not what I had on my 2025 bingo sheet, but
No,
sure.
I'll take
Legend
it.
of the Galactic Hero is also a big orchestral arrangements and big sweeping space opera narrative. So yeah, let's just mash it together.
Yeah, that's a series I've always kind of wanted to get into, but been very intimidated.
And as we said, this is on top of the classical ballet and the classical music. Every episode is a gold mine of here's this dance, here's this song. So just in episode 1, you have Muto, who is dancing the dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy when he's on the water. He's doing that dance. Princess Tutu, when she is rescuing him the first time that she transforms. There's a little baby bird about to fall from the nest. Muto jumps out of a window like the 3rd floor, and Drosselmeyer cuts in as Duck is running towards Muto. He goes, "Oh no, the prince is about to die. What will you do, Princess Tutu?"
Like, hold on, we've only been watching this shit for 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's only been 20 minutes, and so the first time she transforms into Princess Tutu, she is dancing the flower waltz. And subsequently, she saves Muto by creating a giant, group of flower petals, and that's what's playing in the background. It's a great, grand sweeping moment, and she is dancing the flower waltz.
Yeah, I'm not terribly familiar with a lot of classical music. I've never really been much of a music person. I swear, like every other episode, I was like, oh, I recognize that from somewhere. Even if it's just like an old half-remembered Louis Tunes cartoon or something.
Again, it's just so much, but also on the Blu-rays, there is extras called like Etude, or there's also staff commentary. So the scriptwriter, like the ADR scriptwriter, he just is an encyclopedia. He's just going off on all this stuff. The translator's keeping right up with him. And then you'll go to, here's an episode with Lucy Christian and Chris Patton where they go, oh, compared to that other guy, we sound like idiots, huh? He just laid it out on just almost every episode of this is what this was from, and this is this song, and this person was alive from this to this. Like, just wow. So much of that. And it was very tempting to throw it into this episode, but all you need to know is even if you don't know the theme of the classical music or the exact number, like you've heard these songs before. These are the stone cold classics. Tchaikovsky, Chopin, Mozart.
I think I mentioned it to you off air, but I'm definitely buying the Blu-ray after this, and like it's just such a fascinating trove of information,
It really is, and I would also like to give flowers for the opening and ending credits, which these are original compositions. She also composed the lyrics and sang the vocals, so this is the lovely Ritsuko Okazaki. You have Morning Grace and Though My Love is Small. It's not like they have minimal instrumentation, but it's very much in the background. Those songs are very much carried by her voice, and she's almost whispering at you at times. It's really, really strings you along. She has an amazing voice.
Oh yes, absolutely. That the Though My Love is Small ending, that is like legitimately, if not maybe top 10, maybe top 15 anime endings. It's just such a beautiful piece, and yeah, especially with how it goes with the visuals of just taking a nap on a pond.
It's really tragic too that we don't have more of her because it was shortly after this series wrapped that it came out that she was having some stomach cancer concerns in 2003, and then she tragically passed away in 2004 from a sudden septic shock. She couldn't even speak or leave any last words. It happened and she was gone, and she was only 44 at the time.
Rest in peace.
For yeah, just an incredible voice, and I would like to hear more of her. So if when I go back and watch like Fruits Basket, you can hear her do theme songs for that. She's also a singer in Love Hina. There was Say I Love You. I think that was an OVA or a film. No, that was a TV series. And then I vaguely remember her because it was last year, no, 2 years ago now, that I watched again Samurai Troopers and did that was like episode 2 on Treehouse Anime Club or something.
I remember that one.
Did watch the OVAs, so she sang a theme song for like episode 5 of Samurai Troopers Message.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to check out some of the stuff she's done before this, because she just had such a beautiful voice.
Do you have anything else in the story that you want to talk about, or should we jump into the actors and then just kind of whatever comes up from discussing the actors, we can start wrapping it up?
Yeah, I'll see the actors and stuff.
Okay. I did jump between the Japanese track a couple of times, but I did keep it to English for the most part.
Yeah.
How did you watch the show?
Well, it's currently streaming on High Dive, which is how I watch it, and
Right.
like 99% of the time when I watch anime, I watch it subbed. But this time, for whatever reason, they don't have the sub track on High Dive, so I figured,
Oh, it was dub only?
yeah, it was dub only, and I don't know
Okay,
why.
okay.
I just figured, okay, well, whatever. I haven't watched dub in literally years, so I'll check it out. And I was actually really pleasantly surprised. I certainly don't hate dubs or anything, don't get me wrong, but like this dub did, I think, just about everything right.
Yeah, and the staff is stacked on both ends of the spectrum. But I started looking through what did it for me is I was looking through the credits. Like I saw Lucy Christian, Chris Patton. I saw who else was it? Christine Alton was
Yeah,
in here. Marty Fleck. So I was going through. It's like, and this was a ADV Films dub.
just a sidebar for a second. When in my early 20s, when I started getting back into anime, the main way I consumed it was on Hulu because, well, gather around, kids and millennials are about to tell something, because anime was like, used to be one of the only things on Hulu that wasn't behind a paywall. And a lot of them were the ADV produced dubs, like you had Evangelion, you had Excel Saga. Those are just a couple to name a few that I watched. And so it was actually pretty nostalgic going back to this.
On the episode commentary with Lucy and Chris, a lot of what they talk about is Full Metal Panic and Full Metal Panic Famofu. So to kick us off, and I'll do the Japanese credits first, and then we could do English credits.
Okay.
So first off, we have Duck or Princess Tutu. So why didn't they keep her Japanese name Ahiru? They could have just kept it over here because Ahiru sounds more, I guess, exotic than duck. Well, Ahiru in Japanese just means duck.
Yeah, it's not going to be anybody's actual name or anything, to my knowledge.
Right. And so it was a little weird to hear something like, oh, this girl's name is Duck. And then next to, like, she has her two best friends, air quotes, Lilie and Pique. It was a little strange at first, but again, she is a duck. It is fairy tale tradition.
Yeah.
So I'll kick us off with the Japanese actress. We have Nane Kato. I've seen her as Shugo Chara, which is one of the Magical Girl series about protecting the dreams of children. So she plays one of the protagonists. Miki, there is a soccer anime club for kids, soccer anime for kids called Inazuma 11. Again, I know about it, but I've not watched it at all. Like everyone watches Blue Lock and stuff.
Yeah, same boat.
The one that I do know her for is one of the female mechanics in the mecha series Godaner, one of those like a super robot show that's, hey, this is completely ridiculous style of super robot show. So she plays one of the female mechanics, Nanae Hayashi.
In English, Tutu and Duck are played by Lucy Christian. She has an anime credits that are a mile long, so here's just a couple of highlights. She was Nagasi Furukawa in Plan. She was the main lead, or main female lead, Kaname Shidori in Full Metal Panic. She was Hestia, and she was Hestia in Danmachi. She was Christine in Lazarus, which I think is an Adult Swim show. Also played Logical Raka and My Hero Academia, and Reg, is that it? And Made in
Reg.
Abyss.
Yeah.
Reg
Yeah.
and Made
Reg.
in Abyss. Chihaya Aise from Chihaya Furin. And I also know her as Nami in One Piece. And I also know her from when I met her a few years ago at an anime convention. And she's a very pleasant woman.
Oh, cool. How did that go? Did you have a autograph or just shake her hand, able to say hello?
Yeah, I actually got her autograph as a Nani from One Piece, which I mean, if I could go back in time, I would do it as Kiju now. But
Oh, were you dressed as Nami, you
oh
said?
no, no, I wasn't. I actually wasn't cosplaying at this one, I think. But yeah, I got a very pleasant conversation with her where she just asked, "Oh, have you seen all of One Piece?" I said I did up to a point, and then I just kind of lost track for a while. But I intend to go back and finish, which maybe someday, but at least I'll be up on a lot of them. Ooh, a couple other roles that just came to mind. She is also Honey Senpai in High School Host Club. And I'm gonna get this at some point. She is also Kasuna in Desert Punk, which was the kid sidekick and the teacher of Desert Punk.
So moving on, we have see, and like Lucy has just all of the credits ever. So we could be here talking for another 30 minutes and not be
Oh
done.
yeah. The TLDR is basically if you've seen anything dubbed in Texas in the last 25 plus years, she's probably in it.
So our next character is Rue slash Princess Krahe, who is the daughter of the Raven King, and again the prima ballerina at the ballet school. Which Duck is very much not a good ballerina because again she's a duck as a human girl, so she doesn't ballerina very well.
I love the recurring joke of just her just constantly being on the edge of the flunky out class.
Rue, of course, has no trouble with this because she is the best female dancer in the school. So, like Lucy Christian, the Japanese Seiyu, the voice actress, has a ton of credits. She voices Hinata from Naruto and also Boruto. I also know her as Anne Takamaki from Persona 5, the video games. She was in both versions of Full Metal Alchemist. So in the original series, she voiced Wrath, the kid Wrath, and then she came back in Brotherhood for Lanfan. And then the more current one is in the Urusei Yatsura reboot. She is Princess Kurama, one of the many girls in that show.
In English, we have Rue played by Jessica Boone, who's largely seemed to move on to theater work. According to her website, she was Misaki Isahara, who's the protagonist of the Angelic Layer, but Show by Clamp, which takes place in the same universe as Chobits. Again, Dave, I apologize for making you watch that.
Chobits was fine. I enjoyed Chobits, but yes, you did submit Chobits. Dadgummit. So you did do that to me.
Yeah, sorry. She also played Shibane Mishizaki in Keep Your Hands Off Aizoken, which is, actually didn't know that was dubbed. And she also played Rei Miyamoto in High School of the Dead, yeah, which I also did not know was dubbed.
It's one of those dubs where, like Ghost Stories, they just went crazy with all the cultural references. High School of the Dead is just a series all of its own. So she is one of the main protagonists. So I felt like, well, let's just throw it in there. So we have our princesses, and now we of course go to the prince. So his name is written as Mitho, but in both dubs, I was spot checking this, and in both dubs, Mitho is pronounced as Muto. It's almost like in the Japanese they kind of do a Muto, and then in the English version, it's more just Muto. In Japanese, he is voiced by Naoki Yanagi, and so this is still early in his career. This is Manabu Yuki, the main character of the Galaxy Railways. This had a couple of seasons in the early to mid 2000s after Princess Tutu, so I may check those out actually.
All right, in English, we have Nita played by the actor Jay Hickman. Kaoru Hanayama from the 2018 Baki series was originally on Netflix with a different cast, but Sentai released it on home video with their own cadre of actors. And speaking of that, he also did Floki in the Sentai redub of Vinland Saga, and he was also Joichiro from Food Wars. And Dave, I think you and I know him probably best as Izuki Kisaragi, who was the Dr. Razefan, which I saw for the first time last year and actually particularly enjoyed. I also know him, this is just from me scanning the Wikipedia page, as Toru Watanabe from Excel Saga, who is kind of their next door neighbors who like part-time Power Rangers. It just like it's a weird show, but yeah, pretty much all the episodes are like the A plot of Excel and going on some kind of chaos, and the B plot of these guys being basically just part-time, like Sentai heroes, just kind of coalesces into this big hullabaloo at the end.
A lot of tough guy sidekick roles.
Yeah. I mean, like you said off the top, they've both got pretty big shoes to fill on both the English and the Japanese. So, but I think he does a pretty good job.
Yeah, Muto's an interesting case in this show, I think, because he starts off as very much like obviously he's the MacGuffin, and it's almost a story in a way. It's almost a story about Muto becoming the protagonist again.
Yeah.
It was an interesting direction for this character to take, but my favorite character to talk about development and direction is actually the knight of the story. We have Fakir, dark, brooding, and handsome, and as far as Chris Patton was concerned, was kept asking to voice him just a little more bitchy, just a little more bitchy. He's got to be a little more petty, especially early on in the story when he's trying to keep Muto from regaining his heart. But beginning, because again, Fakir's not a very good knight. Again, another character who spends the entire show figuring out and coming into his own power.
Yeah.
Is the pen truly mightier than the sword, should I say?
Yeah.
Fakir is voiced by Takahiro Sakurai, who is the Japanese voice for Cloud Strife and everything Final Fantasy VII, Dissidia as well. Just anything where Cloud Strife has a voice, it's this guy.
That was another instance where I just saw that. I was like, yep, that tracks. It took me a minute, but then I like went back and listened to Japanese clips of Cloud and then Japanese clips of Ghetto, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's the same now, definitely. As we mentioned several times before, he's played by Chris Patton in the English dub, perhaps known as best as Sosuke from Full Metal Panic, but he's also, don't think that's the only thing he's been in. He was also Turles in the Dragon Ball Z Tree of Might movie, and he also reprised that in any video games. He was Aito Kamina, the main character of Rise Fallen. He was the first choice of Greed in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. He was also the first sexually frustrated fourth grader known as Hajime in Ghost Stories, which he was also kind of the closest thing that show had to like a male lead. And I would be remiss to. He's also Lindvar in Fire Emblem Three Houses.
As soon as I heard Fakir open his mouth, I went, "That's Ayato Kamina." Like that's just him.
Yeah.
Yeah, very very recognizable voice. I enjoy. Seems to have a pretty positive fan experience as well at conventions.
I never actually met him, but he seems like a pleasant guy.
Well, who's not so much of a pleasant guy is our, I guess, the antagonist or chief antagonist of the story. We'll get to the Raven King in a minute. He's kind of one of our last on the list, but we have Drosselmeyer. As far as, references and such, Drosselmeyer is chiefly from the Nutcracker. He's an inventor / magician in the Nutcracker and the Mouse King, which was written by E.T.A. Hoffman all the way back in 1816. And much like the character in the Nutcracker, Drosselmeyer is the omnipotent or seemingly omnipotent observer. This Drosselmeyer is the observer and occasional meddler of the story. He works by his own rules. He assists both the Princess Tutu and Princess Kreihi throughout the story because he wants to produce the ultimate tragedy or a forever story. And so in Japanese, he's not so much an anime actor, but he did dip his toes in with Drosselmeyer in one or two roles. This is the great Noboru Mitani. So he's a TV and film actor plus theater. He's got a more 60-year career spanning all of those media.
In English, Drosselmeyer is played by Marty Fleck, and he was in the ADV dub of Gatchaman as director Anderson, and he was also Katsuto Hyono in Kaiji Ultimate Survivor and Mr. Kanagawa's Middle Management Blues. I've got the page open in my phone right here, and it says, and he was the, I actually know this character, he was the kind of overarching villain of at least the first season of Kaiji Ultimate Survivor. In Prime Minister Honest and Akame ga Kill, and something I'm noticing just now is he was also several bit players, it seems, in the ADV 2005 dub of Super Dimension Force Macross.
Yep, a lot of old man characters and villains.
All right, who do we have next? Certainly doesn't turn into one win performance.
No, she does not, and very good, very very good pull. So we have Edel and also another character named Uzura, who's like a smaller version of Edel. So this is the marionette who assists Duck on multiple occasions. And she's also the one, like whenever we have a episode title or there's a theme to the story, she will narrate a lot of the themes of the early episodes. She'll always speaks in rhymes or riddles or in poems. She doesn't outright tell Duck what to do, but she gives her just enough to go on. And so while Adel works for Drosselmeyer, because of how Duck is very kind to her, and not Princess Tutu, I'm talking Duck specifically, the little girl Duck, because of how she talks to Adel and interacts with her, Adel starts to develop a will of her own, which goes into when we get to Uzura, basically Adel's successor. So in Japanese, she is voiced by Akiko Hiramatsu, who is one of the girls, Haruko Akagi from Slam Dunk. We have Miyuki Kobayakawa from You're Under Arrest. And then as Uzura, who's again a miniature version, we have an Erino Hazuki, who is, I know her best as Akari Mizunashi, who's the main character of Arya the Animation. And I believe she's pretty much kept that role as Arya.
In English, Adel and Uzur is actually played by the same actress who's Christine Otten. You'll probably know her best as Izumiko's in Full Metal Alchemist. I think she was both in the OG and Brotherhood, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, both versions, yes.
She was also both in The Immovable and Made in Abyss. I can't mention Christine Otten without mentioning her legendary role as Chichiro from Ghost Stories, which she spent at least 60% of her screen time babbling.
I mean, if you could pay me money to go up and just spout crybaby gibberish, sign me up. She certainly has the range to pull off the mysterious and the annoying.
I was actually extremely caught off guard when I recognized her immediately as Uzura because she's going to mistake that for anybody else. But as Adel, I actually had to feel back and I was like, oh, that's the same woman. Wow.
It's anytime she's in the scene, this little puppet is just banging on this drum, shouting at the top of her lungs. Ends every sentence with Zora.
Anybody who's interacted with a toddler anytime recently knows that she kind of nailed that performance. Honestly,
it's well acted, but damn, do I hate that. So finally, we do have the Raven Kings, channeling very much a threatening bad guy aura, and fittingly in Japanese, he's voiced by Takayuki Sugo. And as soon as I saw this, I went, oh, this has to go into the episode. So he voices Elrond in the Japanese dub of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And I don't remember if he also voices in The Matrix as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did. And for the Shonen Jump category, this guy has a long career of villains and old men. So you've got Zangetsu from Bleach, Ryzen from Yu Yu Hakusho, Diego and Shiryu from One Piece. So again, long list of bad guys in One Piece. He joins that vaulted category. He's also the current voice, if we're jumping back into the Baki series, the current Baki series, he's the current voice of Orochi Doppo, the karate master, who also has this deep and threatening, gravelly voice. He's acting across Steve Bloom in the Netflix dub. So Steve takes a lot of cues from Sugo's performance in Baki.
In English, the Raven King is played by an actor named Mike Kleinhans, which I hope I'm pronouncing right. He was Andre Kalinin in Full Metal Panic, because I'm pretty sure was one of the generals. And in another semi-general role, he was Shiro Wattori and Razefan, who was the second in command of Terra. Just looking at the thing on my phone, he was also one of the voices of Seilei in Neon Genesis Evangelion. So a lot of military time roles to his name. Alright, is that just about everybody? Or are we missing any instructors maybe of the feline persuasion?
Yeah, I do want to give one mention to Mr. Cat. So he doesn't do anything. His job is to be the ballet instructor. And I was trying to remember if there was any specific reference he was making. Like, certainly we've had fairy tales of like King of the Cats, who's like the King of Thieves, or it's usually something else like the Rat King or the frog or whatever, like the Frog Prince from Thumbelina, such and so. There's a long and glorious tradition of the animal villains in a fairy tale threatening to, marry away or marry the female protagonist, who then the prince has to step in and rescue. Long tradition of that. So Mr. Cat seems to be a play on that tradition of any time any of the ballet students screw up or do anything, he's like, if you don't do your thing right, I will force you to marry me. And he just starts sweating, and just you hear dun 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 dun, dun like in a very threatening key. And it's every time. And I was like, I didn't know if the joke was going to get old, To me, it never got old.
There's like a 1 or 2 episode arc where where it's this goat woman has a thing for him, and that's just about. It seems like he's finally getting a taste of his own medicine.
It happens twice. It's like the goat lady, and then there's a what is it? Well, this is I can mention this one in the back half. Like there's a contest, a ballet contest to be Muto's partner in this upcoming dance-off thing. The runner-up gets the grand honor of marrying Mr. Cat, and it's Sloth. Yeah, it's a sloth girl. Again, she's a sloth. She's just laying on the stage. And by default, she somehow ends up as the runner-up, and Mr. Cat's like, no, 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 anybody else, anybody else. And there's actually a fun extra with going back to the Blu-ray, we have Ballet for Beginners. We have the English actor Todd White, or TJP, talking as Mr. Cat of here's all the ballet terms you need to know. And he says, I hope you're studying your performances. Meow. And he just throws in a meow at random times. He really just having fun with it. But I think for really what it is, like both casts really brought it home. We've been talking for a while, so as far as any kind of closing thoughts you want to bring it to help bring the episode home a little bit here?
I think overall, this show, and I think I mentioned it near the top, this show is to me like the perfect representation of a hidden gem, because I had like almost never heard of this show before. I think when I signed up for High Dive, I added it to a watch list just to then to get to it eventually. But if Dave hadn't mentioned it, it probably would have been locked in my watch list for ages. It's one of those shows that I'm very, very glad I watched, and it's definitely in maybe not my top 10 anime of all time, but definitely in my top 20. It is such a wonderful show, and it just does just about everything right, and I definitely am going to buy a Blu-ray as soon as I can swing it.
I easily recognize that I am not the target audience for this kind of work. But what really struck to me about this, and what makes this show work for me and not something like Sailor Moon, which I can obviously say, yes, it's a very good show. But again, I don't really get much out of something like Sailor Moon. But what I really enjoyed about both this and Princess Utena is, if we're going back to Ikuhara, is you never know quite what's going to happen.
Oh, yes.
I enjoy that the show early on doesn't take itself too seriously, but at the same time that it's kind of performing a magic trick in and of itself. Like, oh, look at here's a silly thing happening in the background, whereas it's just quietly building in the corner and slowly introducing things of like, okay, we have this fun setting, we have these interesting characters, now let's really start building towards something more serious. This is what the show is really about.
It's like you said, it kind of starts off silly, but those elements eventually kind of, like, they never quite go away, but they just kind of fade into the background with the characters' personal dramas just emerge at the forefront. The first half is a good show. The second half is a great show. I think I'm repeating myself now, but like I legit never heard of it outside of that even stuff. And like just Googling online, just in preparation for this episode, I found like a very small but dedicated fan base. They've had something of a resurgence in the last few years. Like Serial Experiments Lane, which we talked about earlier, had a huge like renaissance, so to speak, on like fueled by like social media and stuff. Utena is like for the longest time was just kind of this niche thing for a certain subgroup of anime fans that is now practically mainstream. I'm not saying I think Tutu is set for that, but I think it is certainly deserving of a wider audience.
And as you and I were talking about this show prior to even just the formation of this episode, I wasn't originally planning to make an episode on Princess Tutu, but it was really, especially after the episode 13 mark, I went, okay, this could really be something here. And then when you started watching it and we started discussing, that's when I started to realize, like, okay, we really do have something here. We have a lot to talk about. And I think for what it is, I hope we've done enough for our little part of spreading the word about this, again, niche Magical Girls series, maybe not, but again, just kind of hidden gem. Again, Junichi Sato is a very well-known person. So it's not like he's a struggling niche director who's, looking for work all the time. Far from it.
Okay.
But I think in terms of his legacy and with like the Sailor Moon legacy, certainly with Sailor Moon, Ikuhara is given a lot of flowers, and Junichi Sato is, I guess, in some ways seen as the set dresser or like the stage or like the beginner, the person who got the ball rolling on Sailor Moon, I suppose. And Ikuhara is known for like all the weird stuff.
To borrow something, he's kind of like the Pete Best, I suppose, of Sailor Moon, and like maybe Hikuhara is like the Paul McCartney or the George Harrison.
Yeah, a really interesting comparison. And so, yeah, certainly I would know before Princess Tutu, I knew Junichi Sato as like Sailor Moon, and then Aria the animation, which I'm slowly working through. It's the comfiest slice of life show, but man, the first season or so is it's a very slow show. You don't just blaze through Aria. The next show that I'm going to check out from him will be Pre-Tier from 2001. It's like the one immediately prior to this. This is why I love anime, is because I can go into something to where, again, Princess Tutu, it's in a genre that I don't really like. It's by a director that I don't have a lot of experience with because, again, a lot of his stuff is magical girls and adjacent kind of things. And now, after Princess Tutu, not only am I interested in checking out all three of these, I want to continue with more magical girl stuff. I've tried to pick up Magic Knight Ray Earth a couple of times, and it's not so much a content of the show as it is just timing. But like after this, like I want to put Magic Knight Ray Earth up on the list. I want to watch Pre-Tier. I want to watch Waka Pre-Magi. Also, been always eyeing the Pre-Cure series, and you can just jump in at whatever. So I may check out Hug Pre-Cure or just jump into the latest one. Like I am just, this is why I enjoy anime, because there's always room for surprises.
Bouncing off the anime or the magical girl thing, like I would consider that like probably one of my favorite genres, even though like I don't really often watch it as often as I used to, and this show just hit the right beats. Like I'm a bit more a fan of the Madoka Utena style kind of sort of twists on the genre, which this had too, but it also just it felt like if I had watched this when I was much younger, I probably would have this probably would have been a formative show for me. And it bounce off that. This is also a show that I think it's had a rarity to say for this for, but I think this would be good for like younger audiences too, that are like maybe not quite ready for like your Evangelions or your Psychopaths or whatever, but are still interested in anime. Like there's nothing really boundary pushing in this series that I wouldn't recommend for like somebody younger than maybe 10 or so.
It is a really interesting mix of, classical magical girl, classical music, ballet, the presentation. There's no, there is combat, but it's not like really punchy combat. It's all, I guess it's very performative. You'll also never really see this fusion before or ever since.
Yeah.
So that's another point in Tutu's favor.
Like I keep thinking of things to compare it to, but like I can't really think of any. Like I mean, like we said before, it kind of starts out like a card capture Sakura, but outgrows that very quickly. And like I can't really think of anything else I would compare it to. You know?
Well, as we close out, is there anything that you would like to share with the class or promote before we sign off?
Well, by the time this episode goes live, I will probably have started a Twitch or YouTube channel where I play games and such as a VTuber. I will pass the information along to Dave closer to when that comes out, as if I've gotten it ready in time. But I would also like to shout out kind of charity that I'm a fan of. I should preface this by saying I'm not involved with them or anything, but they are called the Carolina Manga Library. What they do is they go to conventions and schools and just provide manga and graphic novels to read to promote literacy and just encourage people to read. And it's ran by this lady in Carolina who just collects a bunch of these manga and just trucks them all around the country. If you've been to an anime convention in the southeast or on the east coast anytime in the last 4 or 5 years, you've probably seen her there. So just a shout out to them. I think they have a Patreon that you can subscribe to, and to just help fuel their goal. And yeah, it's just something they're all about like media preservation and stuff, which I can get behind. So shout out to them.
Support your local libraries as well.
Oh, yes, absolutely. As the child of the librarian, I feel compelled that I should second that.
Well, thank you once again for showing up for this episode. And for those of you listening, I hope you really enjoyed Princess Tutu. Again, you can find the show as of easily available on High Dive for now. And if you follow Sentai Filmworks on their website, you can also they do sales pretty often. So you can either get the Blu-ray set, the complete collector's edition, or in the rare cases I was able to get it, I picked up the limited edition steelbook and just has all the same of the Blu-ray stuff. I really hope you guys check this show out. This one is worth the free trial of High Dive alone. There's plenty of other shows on there. I think that pretty much does it. So thank you all once again for listening. Stay safe, and as always, watch more cartoons.